Here we go!
I think it's time that we go ahead and we move into our major topic. This news broke today. Now, when I started working on these show notes, I had no idea that today's announcement was going to completely shift the way we spoke about this. Today, the ESA announced that E3 2020 has been canceled due to fears of COVID-19. Before they had even made this announcement, E3 2020 was looking like a disaster. We had prominent members of the media refusing to go to E3. The creative directors of E3 quit 3 months before the show was about to begin. And on top of that, the big three companies, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, have little to no presence at the trade show, period. E3 2020 was shaping up to be a disaster. On top of that, fears of COVID-19 or the coronavirus have altogether shuttered the company. Today, we want to talk about all the things that led up to this disaster, up until its eventual cancellation. And I want to start with the big three, starting with Sony. Sony announced back in January that they would not be attending E3. And this was the second year in a row. They did not attend last year, but I think it was more egregious this year because the PS5 is coming out and we haven't had a good look at the system. Like, E3 used to be a place where you would showcase the system. That was your reveal. Everything up to that point was rumor and speculation, and E3 was where you highlighted the console. It exists. This is what we're working on. These are the specs. These are the games. This is your spectacle. And Sony said, we're not doing that shit. We are out. E3 does not, the vision of E3 isn't right, is the direct quote. The vision of the show isn't right. That says a whole lot of, it says so much. It says that even before we knew any of the trash that was happening, executives of these major console manufacturers are like, this isn't going to work for us. This is bad. Microsoft is also not directly at the show. They were going to host their own event, I think within a mile radius of where E3 is actually being held, but they weren't actually going to be at the E3 event themselves. They were doing their own thing. I don't remember what it's called, but they wanted to do their own thing. And Nintendo, while they have a show floor presence, they haven't held a press conference at E3 since 2012?
I don't know. I was thinking 11, but maybe 12.
No, I think it was. Whenever they showed off the Wii U.
Well,
that was the last stage show they had.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they had a Nintendo Direct the day before E3 that showcased the system and highlighted it. The next day, all they did was focus. Their show floor was on games, and they closed out that E3 by showing what is the name of that game where it's like a theme park? Nintendo
Land. Yeah.
They closed the show by showing Nintendo Land, and that was the last time Nintendo had a stage show at E3. Now, granted, I think it was for Nintendo, it made sense because obviously the Wii U, not the console Nintendo wanted it to be. I've said this on a number of occasions, but the Wii U is a stopgap system, and it makes sense to view it like that because it's one of the shorter lifespans for a Nintendo console. 5 years, really only 4, because once we knew about the NX, as it was then being called, the Wii U was effectively dead. So Nintendo pulling away from that and doing like the digital showcasing at E3 was a much better way for them to showcase their games, and then spending their time at E3 doing the Treehouse Live events. Brilliant move by Nintendo. Takes a lot of the pressure of having maybe games that don't showcase too well. Like that one Wii Music game.
Oh, yeah.
That showcased very terribly during the show floor. You don't have debacles like that, or you don't have like the thing where, this like when, a video game company brings like a vertical slice of a game, and then for some reason there's a glitch in the game that decides it only wants to show its ugly head during the stage show.
Like
Control of that and only showed you what was perfect to showcase.
Yeah. Skyward Sword had a lot of technical difficulties when they first showed it.
Oh yeah, the bug, the beetle. Oh, that was...
just motion controls just weren't working for it. Like they just could not get the motion controls to be accurate during the stage show.
Yeah.
I know.
So by moving away from E3 and doing like the digital showcase or digital presentation, Nintendo took a lot of control back for themselves. But at the same time, I think that's like the first step in watching E3's
crumble, demise.
Not necessarily demise, but watching it, looking at it decay slowly.
Okay.
Because from that point on, I believe E3 has slowly begun to decay. Now, a few years ago, E3 opened itself up to the public for the first time, and that completely changed how the trade show felt. And I believe that was one of the biggest missteps in E3, was allowing the fans to have a presence at E3. Now, I don't think it's like a terrible idea to have some fans there, but I do believe the way that they did it was bad. But again, for a little while, Sony was doing its own thing with the PlayStation experience, and that seemed like a way for Sony to pull away from E3. I don't believe they hold the PlayStation experiences anymore. Now Sony is doing the State of Play, a monthly Nintendo Direct clone. Basically, they just show off what games they have coming in the near future, and it works. And it just goes to show that maybe Nintendo had the right idea. Instead of having a stage show and putting themselves out there, they would control what is shown, what is seen, and what announcements they make in a better way and in a nice, clean package. I think that's the one thing about a stage show that you can't underestimate is stage shows can go horribly wrong. They're live. And we've seen that on a number of occasions, specifically from the console manufacturer. Now, It's weird that Microsoft, out of the three of them having some type of stage show, but doing it outside of the E3 venue, that's the one that really bugs me because it's like, it's sort of like a half commitment to E3. But it is what it is. I mean, I knew that once Sony pulled out for the second year, we were in big trouble. Any additional thoughts on the big three's presence at E3?
What presence? Who's showing up to E3? No one was. Now it's canceled. No, but I think it's a big hit to E3, and there's been a lot of missteps also, like the fans. And I think you had a great idea with the unspecific fans, and Ubisoft does that. They invite like 5 or so super fans to just go to E3. Only 5, and they're like the really dedicated, influencers, streamers, and just big fans. Community members, whatever. That's a great idea, but just allowing it to be public was a mistake. Nintendo's not there. Sony's not there. I didn't really see the Microsoft thing as being like a half commitment. I just sort of thought they were, like you said, doing their own thing. Like they have something else in store, or Microsoft doesn't view Sony and Nintendo as the competition. They're doing Google and Amazon. So they're going to try and like go closer to where the Stadia is holding their Stadia press conference. I don't know.
Yeah, it's about the Stadia press conference.
Is there going to be one this year? Probably not. E3's canceled.
I don't think Stadia lasts another 6 months.
They're gonna just have it around. No one's gonna make games for it. It's going to just exist, and then 2, maybe 3, 4, 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. We're gonna see like, oh, xCloud leaves beta and Amazon's gaming device. And oh yeah, remember Stadia? We're gonna make games for it again. Stadia 2, or it's like something, So I think that's probably what's gonna happen with Stadia. As far as it now just being canceled, I had a big E3 prediction I was gonna make, and I will now have to say it here because I don't know what else to do. So everyone's line up for their conferences. Microsoft, they're there. They're showing off the Xbox Series X. And they're like, all right, so now let's show you guys some games. And, they show Halo. They show Gears of War. And then and then you see some overalls. You see a red shirt and a hat. Mario, the new 3D Mario game, is coming to Xbox Series X. It's going to not be Nintendo exclusive, not be Xbox exclusive, but it's going to be on both systems.
Yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I know they have a good level. I just don't see that.
It's near impossible. Like, Nintendo's not going to give them that. But it's the perfect way for Microsoft to get the edge over Sony on this one. If you're looking at the two systems, you're deciding, I could get an Xbox or I could get a PlayStation. Xbox they got Mario though. I kind of like that. It's for the consumers that don't really want a Switch. If you're only looking at those two, you're never ever going to get a Switch. This one has Mario though. If people want to play Mario and they have a Switch or they're interested in a Switch, they'll get the 3D Mario game on the Switch. Let's be real here. So it kind of makes sense from that perspective. But Nintendo's not going to let them. They're not going to let them have it. But I don't know. That's my prediction. I like going for those really left field predictions. If it's not left field, I'm not predicting it.
Well, I want to go ahead and move into our next major dropout of E3 because I think this one might hurt from a personal standpoint. Jeff Keighley, who is an industry veteran, posted in a tweet that he would not be attending E3. This is what he specifically had to say. For the past 25 years, I have attended every electronic entertainment expo. Covering, hosting, and sharing E3 has been a highlight of my year, not to mention a defining part of my career. I've debated what to say about E3 2020. While I want to support developers who will showcase their work, I also need to be open and honest with you, the fans, and about precisely what to expect from me. I have made the difficult decision to decline to produce E3 Coliseum. For the first time in 25 years, I will not be participating in E3. I look forward to supporting the industry in other ways and at other events in the future. This is Jeff Keighley. Mm-hmm. Jeff Keighley, while I do think he is the biggest dick rider in the industry, the way he blows Kojima really gets on my nerves.
Dick Rider's a word. I was just going to say a big tool, but
he is kind of
still a good guy.
Yeah, but he's a guy who has shaped his career on being the guy who brings you the information at E3. I when I think of Jeff Keighley, I think of two things. I think of E3 and I think of the Game Awards. Two important times of the year for gaming in general. You can say what you want about the Game Awards and what it is, but we get a lot of important reveals there, and it really games get the recognition that they deserve, and during that event, it's a platform to support games. Jeff Keighley's declining to attend E3 says a whole lot. Now he did say that the vision of E3, again, second group of people we've heard say that the vision of E3 isn't right. That's mind-boggling. What is the vision of E3 that Sony says this isn't where E3 should be, and Jeff Keighley is like, this isn't where E3 should be? What is going on? Now, I know they said that they wanted to have these entertainment cues where when you waited in line to play a game, you would have some kind of experience, so that waiting in line wasn't the tedious, boring thing that it can be. And that they were going to really focus on influencers and celebrities and whatnot, which is a weird concept for E3, but okay, whatever you got to do to spice things up, right? But now we're hearing that these people are saying this isn't the right vision for E3. This isn't where we need to go. This isn't how we should be shaping the industry. This isn't how we should be showcasing and highlighting upcoming consoles and games. That's a scary thought. What was E3 looking like to these men and women? That they just declined to be there altogether.
It makes sense to me that that's what Sony says. But Jeff Keighley, I feel was kind of on the same vision as E3 already was. When he's the guy that does the Game Awards. And when I see E3, Ubisoft's doing another musical number, EA's doing another celebrity guest, and then I look at the Game Awards and I see, Green Day's playing, and Vin Diesel's announcing an award. it's kind of like the same.
Not just that, but they use like the last 10 minutes to highlight a crappy Fast and the Furious game. Oh yeah, this is going to tie into the movie franchise.
But it's still the fact that they're focusing more on celebrity appearances and concert songs, performances, whatever, than the games and even the awards mostly. Like they just sort of like had a lot of the awards crammed all together in the first bit or were cut. And it's like, well, why give us Vin Diesel then?
So does it sound like
Green Day?
So from what you're saying, it makes it sound like Jeff Keighley is beginning to view E3 as somewhat of a direct competitor to his product.
I mean, that wasn't where I was going, but you're right. It kind of is. But I feel like if Jeff Keighley doesn't like the vision of E3, why is the Game Awards that same? They think they're the same vision.
Maybe it's because like
and
Game Awards is
an awards show.
An award show, a time to celebrate.
Uh-huh.
A time to celebrate the industry, whereas E3 is to highlight and showcase the best and upcoming that the industry has to offer. And maybe therein lies the biggest difference, that like this year's E3 didn't seem like it was going to do that. It maybe put the industry in a place where it's like, this is actually going to bring down the way people view E3. It's weird though. I mean, it's not that like E3 Coliseum was like the biggest thing that, you know, came out of E3. I mean, we got some cool interviews from developers. Reggie always made an appearance, and we saw some cool stuff, but it wasn't where announcements were being made. Like, for the most part, IGN and a few other and GameSpot and a few other websites broadcast streams from these companies doing their actual stage show, which is the most important part of E3, right? Is the stage shows and the announcements that get made during these stage shows. Again, now we know Sony has no stage show because they have no presence. Microsoft is doing their own thing. Nintendo doesn't do a stage show. So what we're left with are Bethesda and Ubisoft's stage shows. Those are like the two.
EA, Activision.
EA and Activision. Like those are the stage shows that we have. And to be fair,
Nix.
Not a lot of.
Capcom,
Oh yeah,
really.
Screen. Capcom doesn't really do anything.
No, they don't. Screenix does though.
Yeah, Capcom kind of showcases things during their Pro Fighter series. So I think the big three not being there, really, having any presence, is painful. But then knowing what we have left from the other companies, like I do think that the Bethesda press conferences are usually pretty good highlights. Ubisoft can sometimes be hit or miss. It kind of just depends on like what IP they're bringing. I think last year's was a little lackluster, specifically for Nintendo owners. They didn't really bring anything for us last year, whereas the previous 2 years they showcased Mario Rabbids and then Starlink Battle for Atlas featuring Star Fox. Now we know one of those games went on to critical acclaim and the other went on to the bargain bin. But
it's still a great game.
Alex, screw you all.
I think specifically what I like the most about seeing Ubisoft's conferences are the new IPs. Like seeing Starlink, seeing Rabbids, seeing that new Gods and Monsters gets me more excited than Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, Tom Clancy. It's like, all right, Just Dance. I knew that was coming. It's coming every year. Don't need to tell me about it.
Before we go on any further, I do also want to make mention that E3 isn't the only event that's been canceled due to fears of coronavirus. We also recently saw the cancellation of GDC, which
South by Southwest
and
as well.
South by Southwest. And I'm really, really bummed about South by Southwest because friend of the show, Blake J. Harris, was going to be premiering documentary at that event. And now I think we're just going to have to wait for the official release during
CBS.
During the CBS All Access. And they haven't announced when that's coming. So I really feel for Blake in this instance because it's just a damn shame. Like he's worked so hard on this documentary. It's a shame to
It's been the last couple of years of his life.
He had like 6 years. He spent the last 6 years of his life working on this documentary while writing 2 books.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy's not hurting. Let's be 100% real. He's really not hurting financially. He's doing extraordinarily well, and he's in a great place in his career. But at the same time, to see that he is not going to be debuting like this project that he's worked so hard on, it's got to hurt a little bit because this was his showcasing for it.
I feel for his hard work, not his finances, for sure. Yeah, that's the distinction.
So Jeff Keighley out, the big 3 mostly out, and now we have to move into probably the most egregious of people pulling out of E3 2020. This one is the one that boggles my mind. It truly does, because up until this point, what is the major complaint from Jeff Keighley and the other companies been? The creative vision for E3 isn't right. They've said this multiple times. And who drops out next? The show floor creative team, I Am 8-Bit, the people who are creating the E3 2020 experience, pulled out 3 months before E3 is set to happen. This is terrible news. Like, it is your job to make E3 2020 what it's supposed to be, and you're pulling out? So this is what I Am 8-Bit has to say. It's with mixed emotions that I Am 8-Bit has decided to resign as creative directors of what was to be an evolutionary E3 2020 floor experience. We've produced hundreds of gaming plus community events, and it was a dream to be involved with E3. We wish the organizers the best of luck. What the fuck?
Abandoned ship.
Yeah, but ship that you were this was the ship you were building. I mean, abandoned ship mentality, but if you're building the ship's not even touched the water yet. Like, this isn't like the Titanic hitting an iceberg. This is before they even plopped the damn boat into the water. It's still being built.
I mean, this I feel like does happen a bit more in other landscapes. I know my sister worked for like a political campaign. Like, the campaign manager just left, a month into the campaign, or like, right. They've gone through like 3, I don't know, different campaign managers. And it's like, well, why do they keep jumping ship? And it's like, so it's kind of, it happens more than you would think more often. It doesn't make sense, even though it's like, it hasn't even happened. Like, I don't know. I don't get it, but it happens more than you would think. I don't know. So
I have a real problem with I Am 8-Bit leaving when they did.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can't salvage it.
I imagine that a trade show as big as E3 is massive and hard to pull off. There's just no way that it's not difficult to do. But the timing of them leaving, it instantly put the trade show in a lot of jeopardy. 90 days, roughly, we have until E3, correct?
More or less, yeah.
So we have 90 days. Do you know how hard it is to do anything of scale in 90 days? It's difficult. Like, it's difficult. I've had school projects that were due in 90 days that I barely completed up until like the last moment that they were due, and I would be working on them diligently. I imagine something as big and as expensive as and important to the industry as E3 was a massive undertaking. For them to leave with so little time left, first off, I think it's erroneous of. I think it's erroneous, the wrong word. I think it's an absolute tragedy what they did. Like, it left, the people in charge of E3, the ESA, it left them in a place where it's like, how do we salvage this with the time that we have remaining? It's almost impossible. They dropped out on March 5th. It is March 10th. Is it any surprise that 5 days later that E3 as a whole was canceled? Look, I understand that the nation and the globe, the world, is under fear of the coronavirus. but I do believe by June we'll probably have a vaccine. Look, I'm not guaranteeing this, and I do believe that we have men and women smart enough to come up with a vaccine by the time E3 was to roll around. You know, and I do believe that E3 could have been salvaged had it been allowed to, run its course. I think they could have done something. Maybe it wouldn't be the best E3 experience. It might have been one of the worst, but it's still an E3 experience. It makes sense for South by Southwest to be canceled because it was supposed to be this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There's no vaccine right now. There's no like great preventative measures to against COVID-19 or coronavirus, however you want to label it. It makes sense for GDC to be canceled again, same reasons. But I think there's enough time between now and E3 that the men and women in charge of like working on vaccines and preventative measures, I believe they're smart enough to accomplish this. And if they're not, then we should probably be scared. But I don't believe that the men and women in charge of that are stupid by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I believe the timing of this put the ESA in a place where it's like, we can't do this. We don't have enough time. Them leaving completely fucks us over. And it puts me in a place where I have to wonder if anybody will trust I Am 8-Bit to do anything else going forward, knowing that they had a chance to define what E3 could be going forward, and definitely what E3 would have been this year. It puts them in a place where, like, do you trust I Am 8-Bit to be creative directors for any other type of event? I certainly wouldn't. Knowing that they pulled out 3 months of this, I think this might hurt the I Am 8-Bit brand, personally. But like I said, I don't believe it's coincidence that 5 days after the creative directors quit, that the press conference is canceled. I think that the ESA smartly deduced that we're fucked. We can't build this show in 3 months. We don't have enough time. We can use the coronavirus as an excuse to get out of this disaster. We can get off this sinking ship, and we can either make plans for next year, or we can just stop doing E3 altogether. And that's the danger now. That's the danger now that I think we need to get into. Now that the ESA has officially canceled this year's event, what happens going forward? We've already seen that the big three have reduced their presence. They no longer represent E3 the way that they used to. They don't have the same kind of presence. They don't bring their reveals there. Every single one of these big three companies has their own digital way of showcasing new products, new games. Nintendo has the Nintendo Direct. Sony has the State of Play. Microsoft has whatever they call what their thing is. They all have digital showcases that they highlight their games on. Mm-hmm. E3 has become severely antiquated because of the advent of the internet and the way that these companies can produce information and release it to the public. E3 was already in danger, but now we're looking at all these things coming to a head. It's like the perfect storm of bullshit, and it makes you wonder. It makes me personally wonder: is there even a place for E3 going forward?
So, bouncing off of that, I think this would probably be the nail in coffin for E3's future, because without E3 2020, all the other companies that still attended and had a presence at E3 are going to do their own thing online, have their own direct format, whatever. They're just going to do it themselves in their own time, and they're going to say, wow, this is a whole lot easier. It's less expensive. Let's just do this from now on. And then no one's going to show up to E3. It's more or less how I can see like a stubborn company. Like, I feel like Bethesda's stubborn enough to at least, like, if E3 doesn't officially happen, they're going to like rent out a theater in California around the time of year to do it. Like, I think some startup companies might just like do the thing at the same time a year live because they do it. I don't know. But I think as far as E3 goes, this was the nail in the coffin, and it's definitely I am 8-Bit's doing. It's not the coronavirus. It is I am 8-Bit. So you use the example of 90 days to finish a school project. I feel like that's a smaller scale because assuming it's not a group project, that's just you, and you don't have to like be responsible for anyone else. This is a whole team of people doing all of this event coordination. There's so much coordination specifically that goes on, and like you can't just screw people over like that. It's the kind of way I see is like the two leads for a play or a musical. Just the opening night say, no, I'm not going to do it. And all of a sudden there's no understudies and there's no one to be the two leading roles. It's like, well, what do we do? You just screwed over the entire cast and crew of a play, essentially. Granted, they usually have understudies, but let's say the understudies just can't do it either. I don't know. And you just leave them high and fucking dry, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah. So the ESA put out an official statement today. I want to go ahead and read this statement because it's important to hear what they actually have to say, because I speculated that the reason they canceled this, I just already said it, was that because it was a sinking ship and they wanted to use the coronavirus as an excuse. But this is what they officially had to say. After careful consultation with our member companies regarding the health and safety of everyone in our industry, our fans, our employees, our exhibitors, and our longtime E3 partners, we have made the difficult decision to cancel E3 2020 scheduled for June 9th through 11th in Los Angeles. Following the increased and overwhelming concerns about the COVID-19 virus, we felt this was the best way to proceed during such an unprecedented global situation. We are very disappointed that we are unable to hold this event for our fans and supporters, but we know it's the right decision based on the information we have today. Our team will be reaching out directly to exhibitors and attendees with information about providing full refunds. We are also exploring options with our members to coordinate an online experience to showcase industry announcements and news in June 2020. Updates will be shared on e3expo.com. We thank everyone who shared their views on reimagining E3 this year. We look forward to bringing you E3 2021 as a reimagined event that brings fans, media, and industry together in a showcase that celebrates the global video game industry. That's the official statement. Again, I'm willing to bet that this is the official statement because it needs to be the official statement, because they don't want to say that this event has been an unmitigated disaster since January.
Mm-hmm. I think, so going back to your argument about coronavirus vaccine will be by June, which I think is very possible too. So specifically in that statement, they say they're going to just refund everyone. It's not happening. Take your money. That's expensive to them. And they have to coordinate all that. They're taking a huge profit loss when even if, let's say, coronavirus doesn't even like get a vaccine, or it's still kind of like a fear, you can delay it. If it's just the coronavirus, you can delay E3 and save money. You can have to like accommodate people who got tickets and things and be like, oh, well, here's this gift card, I don't know, or something. I don't know. But like you can accommodate without having to give a full refund if you delay it. And that's doable. You take a lot less of a loss. But the issue that strikes me is that, well, they didn't delay it because there's I am 8-Bit. There's no reasonable delay you can give now because it's just fucked.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, let me say something. I have been following E3 since 1995, and to do that back then was difficult. The internet was not widely available. We had to wait a couple months to find out the information that was showcased at E3. We'd have to wait for video game magazines like GamePro and EGM to cover these things. And yes, those would be my favorite issues of those magazines because it's like it's fucking Christmas in the pages of this giant ass magazine. We don't have that anymore. Now the internet is so prominent that we've been spoiled by being able to stream E3. Mm-hmm. And E3 has been so important from the moment that streaming became a viable option to E3. it's been spectacular. It's like you don't have to be there to get the E3 experience. This is the first time that E3 experience is in jeopardy. And like you said earlier, it's a bad thing to lose GameStop right now. It may not be as bad to lose E3, but E3 is where we go to find out what the next year to 2 years of our lives as gamers is going to look like. Like, the problem with the digital showcases that the three companies are doing is that they're very focused on the immediacy. Sometimes it's nice to know in advance what's coming. It's nice to know that, hey, we not only have games that are targeted for the immediate future, but we have games in development for the next few years. That's what's important about E3. Not just to the consumer, but it's important to the people who fund these games, the people who invest in these companies. That's what E3 is really for. We treat E3 like it's specifically a fan event. That's not the case. E3 is not really geared towards fans. E3 is geared towards media and investors. It allows investors to know that their money is being put to good use and will hopefully become profitable. Not having E3 as a venue to showcase this, it's going to hurt investor confidence, because now they don't necessarily know that their money is being put to future projects. They're only going to know about the here and now. They're not going to know. I'm certain there are venues and ways for games, video game companies to showcase these things to them. But you lose the gauge, right? The fans and the media are the gauge.
For sure.
Right? The level of anticipation and excitement that we have for these announcements really gauge what the investors think and whether or not they want to continue to invest in these companies. That's why E3 is important. That's why losing E3 this year is an absolute fucking nightmare, not just to the ESA, but to us as consumers and to the industry, the media as a whole. Because now, what does the media cover? Do they cover these little vertical slices of digital presentations? Unless these video game presentations are intending to showcase the same content that was going to be showcased at E3, it makes a big difference. And trust me, knowing that they don't have the same kind of pressure to showcase if E3 is in fact some kind of digital presentation, like they said here in the official statement that they want to do, does that mean companies can change their plans? We don't have to showcase what we're developing for 2 or 3 years from now. We can just showcase what we need to showcase for the immediate future. The industry is completely shifted by this. This completely shifts what the industry will showcase. It is scary. It is scary to know that E3 is going to die like this. And that's the other thing. Now we have to wonder about the future of E3. We saw that this year blew up in the face of the ESA really bad. This was an implosion. Does the ESA, will they consider this a worthwhile endeavor going forward? Because this, like you said, this is a lot of coordination, which we saw this year. The coordination completely fucked up. This is a lot of money. They're going to have to do full refunds to members of the media, members of the other communities. I don't know what kind of financial detriment this is to investors.
And as far as, you talked about the engaging audience interest and hype, as the start of a new generation, E3 was the time to get the new console hype. So losing that specifically for the new generation, I think, is going to be a big hit, and that can even indirectly affect. All right, so let's say Xbox Series X didn't get a whole lot of hype. That can affect GameStop. Oh no, these things aren't flying off the shelves. What do we do? And also the developers that make the games for them, and Microsoft themselves, and so it can be an issue for sure.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder what is the incentive to produce future E3s if they can't get this one off the ground? I have to think that a year without E3 opens up the door for no more E3 whatsoever.
Especially E3 this big for the new generation specifically, because then you're just missed out, and it's like another lackluster E3. Like, oh, just Elder Scrolls 6. Whoopee. It's
That's
all about
the thing.
games, not the hardware then.
Even bad E3s were fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were. There was always
music
at least
was fun to laugh at.
There was always at least one game that caught your attention in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in 2014 when Nintendo highlighted Splatoon for the first time, I immediately fell in love with what I saw, and that was a bad E3. That was not a great E3 specifically for Nintendo. That was a very bad E3, but they showcased Splatoon, and that's one of my favorite IP that Nintendo has now. This is a bad time. This is a bad time for the ESA. Like, they're already under a lot of scrutiny for so many other things, like loot boxes and whatnot. But losing this is bad. It makes me wonder. Like, I would love to hear what some of the the top heads of these video game companies have to say about the overall loss of E3. I imagine that like this is somewhat of a blow to them. Maybe one they could have expected, but I don't think that this doesn't hurt the game industry as a whole. Maybe it's a minor inconvenience, but maybe it's something far worse. Like, we don't know. We're not behind the scenes. We don't know how these companies are going to deal with this. But we do know that this probably hurts Nintendo a little bit financially because they always build these very extravagant displays. I mean, they built a city one year. They built a section of Breath of the Wild. Mm-hmm. Like, they build these amazing set pieces to showcase at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever big game Nintendo was planning to showcase this year, I feel bad. Those were being designed. What do you say? Just stop building it? You lose the money that you spent starting it.
I'm sure they could host something similar for those places to go. Like, they could say, hey, Nintendo World Store, or like another conference or something, like, or a con booth. Put their things there. This is it. Like, if they went to PAX, put it up at their PAX booth. I don't know.
So, I personally think that this is it. This is it for E3. If this year's E3 doesn't happen, I don't see E3 happening next year, the year after. I think E3 is officially dead. As I said earlier, all these companies have their own ways of presenting new consoles and new games. I don't think E3 is relevant anymore. And officially losing this event, that's it. This is the nail in the coffin.
It is,
This is the nail in the coffin for E3. And originally, when I wrote these show notes before the official cancellation was announced, I had a topic that was asking, is this the end of E3? And if not, how can it be saved? I scrapped this one because it can't be saved. This is the end of this year's E3, and I don't know what you can do going forward to fix the problems that this year's E3 had to make this a trade show that people want to attend again.
Not much. Rip E3. It's kind of not happening. No, it's dead.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, I hate to be the guy that just officially says E3 is dead, because I don't want it to be dead from a personal standpoint. I love E3. It's my Christmas in June. This is the year. This is the time of the year that I am so excited for. That we do multiple episodes surrounding E3. We have our prediction show, and then we do our post show coverage. And I don't know what we're gonna do for this time of year unless the ESA and the game companies can announce something, some kind of digital event that really coordinates everything all together, which really kind of just bumps me out. I mean, I am so disappointed. I am just so disappointed. I don't know where we go from here. But yeah, I'm gonna declare it. I'm gonna declare it here and now. E3 is officially dead. And I I think the industry is worse off for it. But with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap this episode up. We've been going for almost 2 hours. So, yeah, guys, please let us know what your thoughts are on the death of E3. I really want to hear what you guys have to say, because I feel like we should all be more sad than I think a lot of the reaction has been. Seen a lot of like joking, but I think if you really sit down and think about not having an E3 this year, should bum you out a whole lot more. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get out of your hair. You can hit me up on Twitter at NyceOne983. You can email me at NyceOne983@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Nintendo Power Zone. If you're a fan of the Nintendo Power Zone podcast, you can always download new episodes on iTunes, Google Play Music, stream new episodes on Spotify and Stitcher Radio. But if you want to watch the live version of the show, you got to check us out right here on YouTube, youtube.com/Nintendo Power Zone. Blooz, go ahead and hit them up.
As always, follow me on Twitter at VKingBlooz. Blooz, as always, spelled Blooz. As well as Twitch and YouTube, same place.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for watching. And remember to stay fresh. Deuces.